Oh, thank you everyone for coming today, and thank you so much for the panelists to spending your time to like come here to share with other Goldwater Scholar and other attendee. Today, my name is Thian, and I am in the webinar committee of the Goldwater Scholar community with Amanda, and we because our community have a lot of scholar and also other student interest in the UK fellowship, and for last year we did UK fellowship webinar before, but it's for different UK fellowship. So this time we want to focusing like only the Marshall scholarship, and yeah first to continue for the agenda today, we will start with the panelists intro first, and then after that I will intro you about the scholarship mission and eligibility, and also the application component, and after that panelists will share their insight, and then we will have the Q&A section for attendee to ask question. So for the panelists introduction, I think we have I think Yasa and Stephen maybe come later, and Anna maybe they will join later. So maybe I can start with Katherine first. Katherine, could you give an introduction about yourself?
Yeah, sure. So my full name's Katherine. I go by Katie. I got the Marshall Scholarship at the end of 2018, so during my senior year of college. And then I went to the UK in 2019. I used my first year of the Marshall Scholarship at Oxford, where I did a master's in mathematics. And then the second year, it was COVID, so I didn't, it was all online, but I was at Imperial. But I actually, the first time I set foot on Imperial's campus was last year when I went back to the UK for my Oxford graduation. So kind of weird, but yeah, so my year at Imperial, I did some computer science. And then after the fellowship, I came back to the United States, and I'm currently in the beginning of my third year of my PhD at the University of Chicago, and I'm doing mathematics, and I work in the fields of geometric representation theory.
Yeah, thank you, Katie. Nitheyaa, could you introduce yourself?
Yes. So my name is Nitheyaa, and I got the Goldwater back in 2019, and then got the Marshall in the subsequent year in 2020. I came to the UK in 2021, and I've been here since. So this is my third year on the Marshall Scholarship, and I've been at the University of Bristol in England, and I'm currently doing a PhD in biochemistry.
Yeah, thank you. Nora, could you introduce yourself?
I'm Laura. I think I got the Goldwater in 2022, and I'm in like the newest class of Marshalls. And for my first year, I'm doing a master's at Cambridge in math, and next year I plan on doing a second master's at Edinburgh.
Yeah, thank you. Joshua, would you continue?
Yeah, so I think I won Goldwater in 2021, and I am a 2022 Marshall. I'm doing my PhD at the University of Edinburgh in biomedical AI.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. So I will start with the introduce about the scholarship mission and eligibility. So the Marshall Scholarship was established in 1953 by British Parliament as a thank you for the U.S. economic aid under the Marshall Plan, and the mission of the scholarship is to enable intellectual, distinguished young American who will become the country future leader and decision maker to study in the UK, and the eligibility for the scholarship that the applicant have to be United States citizen and hold a first undergraduate degree from a university in the United States with a minimum GPA of 3.7, and the applicant must have not studied or hold a degree from a UK university, but students who study abroad in UK still eligible to apply for the Marshall Scholarship. And the scholarship benefits include food tuition, cost of living, and airfare from to the US. Also, rent for both thesis and research travel, and it also include a contribution that support a dependent spouse if applicable. And for the there are 3 different types of Marshall Scholarship, which include the 1-year scholarship, 2-year scholarship, and 2-year scholarship with a possible 3-year extension. For the 1-year scholarship is for the 1-year master, either research or thought, and it do not have no extension. For the 2-year scholarship, it can be 2 1-year master at the same university or different university, or a 2-year master program, or the 2-year of the PhD program. For the 2-year scholarship with a possible 3rd-year extension, if for the student who complete 1-year master already and will start the PhD in 2nd year, or the student who upgrade from the 2-year master or continue the last 2 years of the PhD program. For the number of the student got the scholarship, it's up to 50 student can receive the scholarship per year, and applicant will make in one of 8 regions in the United States. So candidate have to decide and apply in one region only, and that region can either like that's either their permanent home address, or the place of their employment, or in the region that they study. And usually the deadline will be the late September to early October every year. And so I think for this year it's already bad, but it's like the info, it will be the recording name for student who can prepare for the cycle next year. And for the evaluation criteria, because we have this is I have the information sharing from Anna, so Anna also Goldwater and Marshall alumni, and now see the lead STEM evaluator of the Marshall Scholarship, and also the so she helping with overview, like the review the applicant, and she sharing about that the applicant will be rated on a 1 to 5 scale, like from like they will be rated like from 1 to 5 at like no evidence or outstanding evidence for the 3 criteria, and each criteria will have 4 parts that the applicant should provide like the evidence that support strongly to each criteria. So for the 3 criteria that the scholarship will be focused to evaluate include academic merit, leadership potential, and ambassadorial potential. And for the academic merit, they will focus on the quality of the program of study, the knowledge of robots courses, and the supervisor if they do the research only program. And then evidence of the academic
moment.
merit. Sorry. And also like the quality and breadth of recommendation that like how they can know the applicant as a person through the criteria, through the recommender. And also for the leadership potential, they will focus on the ability to deliver the result, that how the applicant show their leadership potential through their like leadership like outcome, and also the change of purpose, and also like creativity, that like how they created about the approach for the solution for the problem that they think that they want to solve, and also self-awareness about how they see themselves like a role to help other, or how they aware their role in the community. And also ambassadorial potential will be evaluated based on like the knowledge of US-UK relation, and then evidence of transferable extracurriculum activity, interpersonal skill, and the ability to engage with others, and also the self-confidence and ability to gain or achieve opportunity. For the application component, we include they will have some basic form and short answer to answer to for the applicant information, and also like eligibility. For the essay, there will be 5 essays in total, including both scholarship plan, personal statement, global academic program, leadership statement, and ambassador potential statement. The application component will also include transcript, university endowment, and 3 letter of recommendation. For the essays from for the personal statement, they will add the candidate to deploy the candidate intellectual development, and also other interests and pursuit. For the global academic program, the candidate they will add the candidate to deploy their global academic program, and give the reason for their choice of the course and the referred university. For the leadership statement, they will require the candidate to deploy a situation in which they work with a group of people, and then they respond to a need of for leadership. And for the ambassador potential statement, they add the candidate to explain why they want to undertake their study in the UK, and in what particular way that the applicant think that they will benefit personally and professionally from the experience study in the UK. And this is the additional sources for about the Marshall Scholarship. The Marshall Scholarship, they have a outreach page that they have think previous also scholars sharing about their experience, and also they have the YouTube channel of the British Embassy in Washington. This YouTube channel also have some webinar about the Marshall Scholarship, and I shared Dear Future College website, organization that created by the Marshall Scholarship alumni, and it will match the participant with the mentor, and the mentor will support the participant through the graduate admission process, and also the fellowship application, including Marshall or any other fellowship application. So if anyone like want to apply to both UK fellowship or US fellowship, they can consider and attend, sign up for that program and have additional support. So this, I think, is like general information about the Marshall scholarship. So so I think we can continue with to hearing about insight of panelists about their about their experience when they applying. Actually, and I really focused, like really emphasize on like for the evaluation criteria. Could any panelists could share more about the evaluation criteria, like how they approach to like answer or to to approach to like the question, or to look about the criteria.
Sure. I mean, I can speak on it for a second. Apologize, my washer's on in the background. It might be loud. I don't know if anyone can hear that. Oh, it's getting louder. Maybe I shouldn't answer this. I don't know. Is it bad? No, it's not bad. Okay, so only I can hear it. But anyway, when you do, well, I guess there's two components of this, right? And one component is the essay component, where the other component is the interview component. And I think you're being rated on both of these things through your actual writing and through your presence in the interview. But what I'll say is through the actual writing, I mean, there are going to be individual essays on each of these that we've already covered, but there will also, like in the interview, will kind of be tailored to your own experiences that whatever you've done research on or whatever you decide to write about in your essays will come back up and be a topic of discussion there. So I feel like this will kind of look different for every single person, and it's important to kind of put your own creative spin on it. And I believe, based on every Marshall I've talked to, there's really no solution or like generalized or one size fits all solution for doing the essays or even doing the interview. Like, for example, in undergrad, I did computer engineering. So a lot of my questions were about engineering or machine learning, whereas I have a friend that goes to Royal Academy of Music, and they asked her to sing in front of them for the interview. I mean, these are two drastically different interviews. So I guess that's my take on it. Just be confident in yourself, be confident in your own story, and be able to communicate that in an effective way.
Yeah, thank you for your sharing.
In comparison, I studied physics and computer science as an undergrad. Also, I'm Yasa. I'm a 2022 scholar with Josh. And I got asked 0 science questions in my interview. So you can get quite a variable outcome depending what region you're in, what your interviewers are interested in, what your profile is. So there's no perfect way to prepare for it, aside from know the things that you wrote down and know why you want to go to the UK.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, could you share, do you have any insight that you could share with us about this?
Oh, me? So yeah, regarding this, I definitely agree with what's been said before, and I will say, I think my impression was with regards to who's evaluating the initial application versus the interview is not necessarily the same people. Like they have people who read the applications and then select the finalist for the interview stages, and then maybe some people might be on the committee, but at least in my situation, I was under the impression that wasn't the case. And yeah, I think they can go a lot of different ways, and I think it can really depend on the committee. So if you get to a point where you've submit your application and and say you get an interview, I think one of the one of the 2 to 3 good things you can do is, number one, you really need to know like what you've written in your application. You don't want to all of a sudden be in the interview and they mention something and you just don't remember it. And then I think another really big thing you can do is, be able to answer questions about why do you want to study in the UK? Why do we need to have you in the UK specifically? I mean, those are related questions, but I mean, you could just say, I want a nice vacation for 2 years. But I mean, it's nice, but like what would benefit, your research or something. And then I think that the third thing with regards to this that is good to keep in mind is that like potentially you can reach out to people who have been finalists in the region or have gotten the scholarship from your region before. Either maybe you have somebody from your university, which would be great, that they can connect you with, but also you can just go look online at the names of the scholars and you can probably figure out somebody who was in your region and just like email them. I don't know. I got reached out. I think it was probably through Goldwater, but I got reached out by various people connecting me. So, and I think most people are happy to talk about it. So I think that is something, yeah, I think that is something that I would recommend.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, just to add on to the whole interview experience thing, one thing that I'll never ever forget is in my extracurricular section of like everything else that I'm doing. So I study biochemistry in undergrad. I do neuroscience, but then I also sing and I play a couple of instruments. So one of the very first questions that they asked me to do was sing like my favorite line from one of the songs that I've like recently performed, and that completely threw me off because I was so prepared to answer science questions, stuff that I've written on my essay, stuff that I want to do in the UK, and what my PhD was going to be about. And then here I am. They're like, "Oh, can you sing this line?" And so that completely threw me off. But it was a fun experience. And then the other important thing that I just wanted to add to this is your knowledge of proposed courses and supervisors. I think that's very important, and I think that'll help you kind of tailor your answers to the question of why study in the UK. Just like Katie mentioned, it's so important for them to be convinced that you need to be in the UK at this time to do this specific thing, and you can only do it in the UK, and you can benefit by XYZ. So that's definitely one of the most important things I believe in this whole process. One of the ways, if you want to do an MRes, so Master's by Research, or do a PhD, I would highly, highly, highly recommend reaching out to the supervisors in the UK that you want to work with. That shows a lot of, it just shows interest. And if you can get an idea of what project you're going to be working on specifically, or really just anything about the labs, then that is really good.
Yeah, thank you.
Oh, I have
Yeah.
something really quick to add, if that's all right. I think it's important. This goes kind of back to the essays, but also just general evaluating. You have to talk about like your secondary choice in programs, I believe. You want to have thought about that more than just like choose a random program and put it down in your application. Like it would be good to even, in the essay, I don't think it's that long, but maybe talk about why that would also be a good option, but also like know in your interview, like, first of all, like who would you maybe do a research project under there and actually know about their research? Because the worst thing that could happen is they could see, through I just kind of Googled and found the next best thing. I don't know. I think there should be thought there.
Yeah, I was also going to add about like the master's by research / like PhD discussion. I think you actually in the UK, like to apply, most of the time you do actually have to have like a supervisor already, because they expect you to like propose a research proposal, and like the professor will probably be the one like getting your application. So yeah, definitely second like reaching out to them beforehand.
Definitely true for Cambridge.
Yeah. And thank you. Oh, I want to. Oh, I think there a question of one of the. I think yeah, I think one student asking about like, oh, why you to UK to study, and why you why UK but like not like why you want to like come to UK to study for that year. Maybe we can have.
Yeah, sure. Sorry, I didn't mean to. But yeah, I don't know. I think really because it was cool. I was inspired by a mentor of mine who was my school's first Rhodes Scholar, and she was part of my scholarship program for undergrad. And seeing her at Oxford made me realize it was possible for a person like me to also get to that point. And in conversations I had with her, she was talking about how important it was to expand your worldview beyond just the US. And now that I'm here, I can definitely understand that importance far more than just the thought of it. But also, it's put me on to very unique research opportunities. Right now, I work with data collected from the NHS, which is essentially the healthcare system here. And because it's universal, it has much more data than US data sets. I know NHS is coming out with all of us, but it's like provided me with a unique opportunity to do research with hospital records that are far more complete than anything I've worked with in the past. And that's a very great opportunity. And being here gives me the context of what those hospital records actually mean. I know that several American researchers also in the field also work with the UK Biobank, for example. But when it comes to things like socioeconomic metrics and stuff of that nature, I mean, these have different interpretations based on the context of the culture and the population that you're observing. So it's very nice to actually be here and understand the semantics of all that rather than observe it, from the outside looking in. I think it makes for more responsible research. But yeah, that's kind of like my reason. But first and foremost, it's cool. And now that I'm here, I think it's definitely worth it.
Thank you. Yes, how could you also share about like what like make you want to like study in the UK?
My answer is very simple. I really liked the research that my current supervisor was doing. I'd read a paper that his lab had published very recently at that time, and I wanted to work on that. It was very close related to my undergraduate research work, but still different in its own ways, and that's the reason I'm here. So very, very simple.
Yeah, thank you.
I more so wanted to spend some time at Cambridge, and the UK in general, but Cambridge is particularly really cool for physicists and mathematicians because the department here is both very historically famous and the way they do physics here is very, very distinct from any other institution in the United States. They do really deeply foundational problems using very old school methods, which is something I wanted to get better at before I came back to the States for my broader PhD. So it's a very, very, very interesting change of intellectual scene. It's a very, very, very interesting set of skills you can get here. I don't think you could study in any kind of other way in any other institution, even just the rest of the world even.
Yeah, thank you. How about you, like Katie? What made you to like study in like what made you to like decide that you want to study at UK at that time?
Yeah, so I think I had studied abroad in the UK, and so that kind of led to the initial thought of like, oh, I'd really like to spend some more time. I felt like I grew a lot personally, and I felt like being abroad was just an eye-opening experience in a lot of ways. So that was kind of the impetus for why I decided to apply, and then kind of working on especially the application process made me like kind of more solidify my reasoning for wanting to go back abroad. So I went my first year to Oxford, and one of the main reasons is I felt like I had a very inclusive environment, which I had experienced when I studied abroad, and I also felt that in the area of mathematics, I liked. There were a lot of researchers there, and like being able to work in kind of one of those general groups, like on a thesis project for my master's degree, would be a really great opportunity. Yeah, so I think those are probably the primary reasons I highlighted in my application and interview.
Oh, how about you, Laura?
Yeah, I feel like my reasons have pretty much already been said. Yeah, I also studied abroad. I studied abroad at Cambridge for a term in my senior fall. And so that really solidified the reason for me to, yeah, apply to Marshall and want to continue living in the UK. Yeah, and I knew that I wanted to come back to Cambridge because I saw like the way the courses were taught, I thought was really good, and I wanted to be able to, yeah, explore more of like the very unique courses that Cambridge offers in the math department. Yeah, and then also that rolls into like my second year choice because, yeah, similarly to how other people mentioned, like the choice of supervisor was really natural for me. It was actually like I worked with a postdoc during my undergrad, and he had done his PhD with who my supervisor will be next year. So I thought like, oh yeah, I really enjoyed that work that I did, and I wanted to do something similar, and I thought, oh, what better place to do it than there.
Yeah, I yeah, I also want to like add for because like I also at Cambridge right now. So yeah, for me like last year when I did a summer research at NIH, and at that time I also meet a student come from the NIH OCHAM program, and also at that time they share about how like different like in UK the research gap, like the way people doing research gap different, and they focus more on like work-life balance. And at that time also make me wonder to like how people doing research here like different in UK. And then I think at that time I also like find really interest in my like my BI the research project that I really interest, and I think it's really like innovative, and I want to come here like at that time. But I think for my experience when I came here, I think that they really, I'm not sure it's only in like Cambridge or only in my department, but I feel that here the research they really prioritize to like discussion and small discussion, and people here they spend a lot of time to like talking through for planning or discuss like rule like problem, and really try to understand each other. So I think it's like it's from my experience. So maybe it's like for me, I feel that in that way they different. Sorry. They feel that it's really different compared to like how the research like conduct in US. So yeah, so I think that yeah, it can be a good like experience, just like experience like how they different in like research like between US and UK. Yeah. I think David asked a question about what is the difference for the 1 year master, 2 year PhD with possible extension, and is this like for different program, do we do like one application, and can we do like different like role, like can we only able to like to one program to apply?
I remember that I think it was just like a checkbox or something for the 1 year version. But I think for a 2 year, like the PhD with possible extension, I think you just apply for the 2 year, and then when your second year comes along, I think you just apply for that separately.
I believe that you're actually only guaranteed the third year at Oxford or Cambridge. Other institutions might have other policies as well, but Oxford for sure has that policy. That being said, a few Marshall scholars do like originally wanted to do 2 master's degrees, then ended up sticking around for their PhD starting in their second year, and they've not had any issue with getting funding to their departments. So just something to keep in mind.
My impression.
Sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say my impression was that yeah, I think it's all on the application. It's like a ticking the box, and you just have to tick the box according to with what you discuss in your, what you're gonna do statement. But my impression was that you can go from 2 years to 1 year. You can say, you know, I did my 1 year here and my life plans have changed and I don't want to do a second year, but you can't have some, I don't think they're as friendly towards, at least when I was there, I'm on a 1 year scholarship and I want to extend to 2 years and do another master's degree or something. I don't think like, so if in doubt, better to apply for 2 years or something. And then you can always leave after one if that's where your life takes you.
So I just wanted to add on one thing. So if you want to do the 2 year scholarship, but then extend it to a 3rd year. So say if you start your PhD in your 1st year, which is what I did, at the end of your 1st year, beginning of 2nd year, basically have to reapply to get the 3rd year of funding granted. So I don't know, maybe in Oxbridge it works a bit differently, but outside of that, if you are part of one of the schools that are partner schools, or if you're on a partner scholarship, so University of Bristol has a Bristol partner scholarship with Marshall. So if you're on one of those, it seems like it's a bit easier to get that 3rd year extension, but they're more friendly to give you that if you've started your PhD in the 1st year, just as a side note.
Yeah, also as a note, I think 1 year, like if you apply for the 1 year master's initially, I've heard it's like a lot harder to get. Like you need some exceptional reason. And like I was discouraged from applying to the 1 year just because, yeah, it's like a lower chance of winning.
Yeah, I think my year, I don't think there was any 1 years that like ended up coming to the UK. So
there are far fewer of them. There's only like 5 to 6, I think, awarded in my year total, and like a lot of those folks were like in the military and had extenuating circumstances. That's the why. Yeah, definitely 2 years is like the main one.
I wanted to ask about your essay for the ambassador potential. What did you guys focus on, and how did you talk about your, I guess, potential to be an ambassador in the future once you complete your master or PhD program in the UK?
Yeah, sure. Again, I think mine, and I think as will everyone else's, will kind of go hand in hand with their research area. And it was really like, what will getting this PhD or getting this degree allow me to do both in the UK and the US? And I do population genetics and computational genetics. And I think I was really talking about using like stuff like epigenetics and the environmental data that the NHS has to offer on patients, and trying to provide like a unique format or a unique setup for US healthcare systems. But actually, when I applied for the Marshall, my research project, my proposal that I applied with was different from what I'm working on now. So it's kind of like not the same thing at all. But it was based on like, I was originally going to model healthcare systems. And it was like, oh, well, because they're already working on modeling these healthcare systems in this specific way in the UK, what if I could replicate this in an American system, and then view it through the lens of like replicability and reproducibility and things like that. So I think it's really just how you can use your research and your experience and leverage it in both contexts, the American and British context.
The only thing I'd like to add to that is that like one of the main things that I focused on was collaboration between the US and UK, and specific to, again, your research field. So either sharing things like mouse models or human tissue or things like that, or just to create connections in your particular field. So again, collaborations, that would be a very important thing that you can discuss.
Yeah, I think I also separated my essay and for that one into like 2 parts. One was more focused on research, and one was like a more personal aspect of like becoming a better like global citizen, or like learning about exploring the UK and things like that.
Yeah, much the same. I just wrote it in the respect of my research area. It helps if you write a bit, if you like demonstrate some knowledge of whatever you're studying is in the UK. So like for me, I work in biophysics, so I talked a bit about biophysics in the UK. I know plenty of other marshals that did something similar. Yeah, just having that kind of subject area insight will help you both in the essay and will definitely be in the interview. So it's worth doing your research.
Okay, I have another question. So now that you guys have won the Marshall, you're part of kind of a community of Marshall scholars right now. So what does that look like, I guess, later on in the program? So is there, do you like maintain connections with other Marshall scholars who have won it like many years back? Like, what does that look like?
Yeah, I would say every cohort's going to have, I guess, a different structure, like different relationships. Like for example, with COVID, some cohorts did not get like the opportunity to like interact as much as others. But still, I think, when I first got to Edinburgh, the first and only people I knew in the city were the people who got there with me. And I think that was an amazing thing because we were all able to like grow and experience like this whole new thing together. And I mean, I think those guys will be my friends for the rest of my life. And everyone else in my cohort and in the 21 class and the 2020 class, I'm still meeting the 23 class, so I can't say much about them yet. But I mean, they've been great connections. I mean, but I think it's a little more personal than even like, oh, just having a network. But like, I don't know if I have to be in London for any reason, if I have to go to Cambridge for any reason, I could always stay with Yasa or I could always stay with the London marshals. And it saves a lot of money. Mostly great people everywhere, right? So, I mean, it's just really no downside. It's a great community. And I think that's what I cherish and respect the most about the scholarship so far.
Yeah, I mean, like I'm currently living with two other marshals in the middle of Cambridge, so it's pretty fun. You're sitting in the corner actually. Yeah, I mean the community's great. All the marshals are people selected intentionally for ambassadorial potential, and I was somewhat actually like, if you go to a giant room of them, you quickly understand what that means. Like the most unbelievably easy people to get along with in the literal planet. Like it's very much like diplomat energy in that respect. Like you will meet no generically more chummy, easy to get along with folks. I think like literally ever. It's actually just utterly shocking. Yeah, I mean, in terms of like alumni and stuff, like I have friends who are former alums from the Marshall who I've definitely connected with. I think that will become more relevant in my life as I leave the Marshall and head off. So maybe some of the older folks can comment on that, but like definitely the people around here for sure is like at a minimum, like UK aside, I think meeting all the folks in the Marshall Scholarship, especially Josh, of course, has been the #1 highlight of my experience by and large, humongously.
Yeah, I also feel like it helps. So I'm like really new, so I guess yeah, I don't know how it affects me later in life, but yeah, I feel like even if I just like cold email some person who I found out was like a Marshall many years past, I feel like they're super receptive to like, yeah, just responding to like people that you wouldn't expect to get a response from otherwise. Like if you just introduce yourself, say, oh, I'm my new Marshall, then they'll actually respond to you and like set up a chat, which is, yeah, really nice.
What on that point, one of my friends actually DM'd the director of Medicare, who is apparently a Marshall scholar, and they responded in like a day. So yeah, just anecdotally, that has happened at least once to be really successful. The director of FAFSA also reasonably responsive. Yeah, there's like a lot of just one-off characters who are surprisingly chummy.
Yeah, this is so I like this question because it's kind of bringing up some good memories for me. yeah, I felt like so I'm one of the people I would say that got their Marshall got very interrupted by COVID. So because I started my first master's degree in fall of 2019. So what's great about the Marshall Scholarship, I think this has come back now post-COVID. That's what I've kind of heard. They do like a retreat sort of situation prior to people leaving. I think unfortunately, if you go to like Edinburgh or certain schools might start earlier, maybe you don't get to go to part of the retreat. Maybe the London portion is what you go to. But yeah, it's a really great opportunity to meet all the scholars. We even had like my group had a pre-retreat, which was a lot of fun, where we went we were in like Virginia and we hung out at some Airbnbs and went hiking on, I think one of the classes above us had told us everyone does this hike, but that was a lie. But we did this hike and it was interesting. Anyway, yeah, so I have a lot of fond memories. I would say because of the COVID interruption, a lot of things changed. You know, before I would make like meals. I didn't live with I lived with other students at my college in Oxford, but I didn't explicitly live with certain Marshalls, but I would make like meals with them on a weekly basis. And because of COVID, everything really changed. But you know, we'd still go on Zoom and they'd have like weekly kind of Marshall things. And so there were some ways to keep together. After the scholarship ended, I mean, some people stay longer than the 2 years, especially if they're doing a PhD. I think how frequently you would see another Marshall kind of depended on where you kind of came back or were located. Some people stay in the UK. So for me, I'm based in Chicago, and there's not a huge Marshall base in Chicago. A lot of, I'd say, former scholars seem to more end up on like the East Coast, but maybe I'm wrong about that. But like there's a few people in my class where they come to Chicago for whatever reason, and then I get, you know, a meal with them, catch up, or I'm visiting somewhere and I'll try to reach out. And I think our class might be doing some sort of reunion thing. There's been talk of this, but it might be next year. And I think also if you're in an area where they host Marshall events, I believe alumni can go. So during the retreat, at least for us, that was in Washington, D.C., they had some events that were, I believe, also open to alumni, and even alumni could volunteer maybe to give some of the talks or be on the panels and stuff. So there's a really great community, and you do get on mailing lists, because I don't know how they got my UChicago address. I guess maybe they just looked it up, but I found Marshall mail in my mailbox there, so I don't know.
Thank you for sharing. I think there's a question in the chat from Angelina. Is there anything unexpected about the program or your experience with it that you wish you'd known before applying?
Yeah, I mean, I can take this one. I'll try to make it quick because I know we're kind of running up on time. Yeah, so I mean, I think this is kind of a trend with any UK scholarship you might apply for. The Marshall is actually, I think, a little less organized than other ones like Rhodes or Gates Cambridge or Churchill. The only reason I'll say that is because it's a scholarship that tries to account for funding students to go to several different universities, which is, of course, not going to be a uniform process for each and every student. And because of that, there can be some difficulties depending on like the area you're in. I know for me, I think I had the expectation that they would handle most things for me, which was like not true. So like I didn't have a place to live in for about 2 to 3 weeks. And that was really, really rough. But it's like, you know, educating yourself on what you need to do to be prepared before, you know, immigrating to a new place where you don't have, you know, family or anything else. Luckily it still worked out. I'm in a really nice spot now, but also I would just state that like with any of these, I think UK scholarships you apply for, it covers your tuition and your cost of living. But like beyond that, you might need a bit of savings realistically. I think some Marshalls are supplemented by like the US military, which helps them greatly. But if you're not, it can be difficult. So it would be advantageous to apply for other sources of funding as well
especially if you want to live comfortably. So I will say that. And I think a lot of scholars realize that after they've won and got here, that the funding wasn't necessarily enough.
I generally agree with the funding statement on like the amount of funding that it was. I think in my time it was, I don't know, just for transparency. I feel like outside of London, you maybe got like 1,100 pounds a month, somewhere in there. And I think my rent at Oxford for my I was lucky in that I didn't have to figure out my living situation, but I had to just go with what the college offered, and it might have been 700 or so of that amount. So it depending what you want your life to look like, that is that's what you're working with. Some people have had like a little on the side jobs. Some people use savings. Yeah, various things happened.
Just to add something really quick with that. And another thing that I didn't really think about is that your experience is like largely shaped by where you are. So I am in Bristol, which is like an hour 45-minute train ride from London, and a lot of the marshals are within the Golden Triangle, so Oxford, Cambridge, London. And so my contact with marshals is fairly low, other than unless I make an effort to go see them or someone comes over to Bristol. So if that's just an important thing to keep in mind if that's something that you want to prioritize and maintain networks for. So largely the marshals that I have been in close contact with are people who went to Bristol or are at Bristol currently. So and then just as a fun anecdotal thing, and one unexpected thing for me was the weather. People told me that it's going to be rainy and cold. I completely underestimated how quickly the sun sets in the winter. So that's my fun unexpected thing, but it is expected because people told me, but still unexpected.
Connor, I can answer your question. So the question is do the majority of scholars starting straight out of undergrad or do a good amount have like a year or two? I would say the majority, at least in my year, are straight out of undergrad. There are definitely quite a few folks who have taken a year off to do like other things. Like we had a scholar who just lived in Alaska for a year, like working, I think teaching high school. We had another scholar who's coming, like you folks coming from other fellowships, like at Boren, like these critical language scholarship fellowships. A really good friend of mine is an artist, and he spent a year working as a professional artist before taking the scholarship. There was a marshal who like folks apply like sometimes like quite a few years down the road. But yeah, usually folks in their early 20s, and if you are taking time off, like that does not make you less of a competitive applicant if that is something that you want to do.
Yeah, I think I just want to add that if any attendee have any question about the Marshall Scholarship. Yeah, I think that we can like wrap up with the discussion today. And yeah, and thank you so much for the panel and also like and everyone to coming today. And I just want to add that it is possible that we can have your contact information. So if any student or like who cannot like attend today can reach out to you if they have any other question. Yeah. Yeah, thank you so much, everyone.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having us, and thank you for organizing this.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, have a good night, everyone.